Hey, this is Pete.
This is Adam.
From Hidea Outboard Motors. Today we're going to jump in and we're going to give you a quick tutorial on how to get yourself and your family and your friends out on the water as soon as possible. So we're going to go ahead and open up one of our new 9.9 motors. We're going to show you what's in the box and we're going to show you how to get it on the boat and get you out into the water as quickly, safely, and efficiently as possible. So here we go.
All right.
We're here standing in front of the package for one of our HDF 9.9 HEL models. This model is our 9.9 horsepower with electric start long shaft. These come in long shaft and they come in short shaft. The shorts are 15 inches and the longs are 20. So we have the right size shaft for whatever kind of boat you're going to be putting this onto. Adam, what do we have in the box here?
All right, so first take this cap off here. It's always nicely packed so you know your motor won't get damaged in any type of shipping or anything like that. Yeah. So you got the motor right up here, obviously. Then you have your gas tank over here, which is included, which is nice. An external tank is included with it. You don't got to go out and buy a separate one. Yeah. And then in here you got a couple bags. Here is your fuel line. Definitely need that. And in this bag, you got some goodies. You have your starter key, you have a little toolkit for your boat, and then the owner's manual, which is super important. Make sure you hang on to that and have a look at it.
Absolutely, perfect.
All right, so now we're ready to yank her out of the box.
All right, cool, here we go. These stands are really handy for maintenance, for training videos and so forth, and they really simulate how you're going to really want to lock down these handles. We'll show you again once we put this on our boat, but overall this is it. This is out of the box, it's ready to go, and we're going to step up and show you a little bit more now.
All right, now that your motor is mounted here, there's a few things you'll want to go over before you get in the water. Couple key components to identify. So first, go ahead and take the hood off with the latch right up front, nice and easy, slides off like that. And the first thing you'll notice is there's this cover here over the intake. Go ahead and discard that. And then another thing to notice is this dial right here. That shows you the amount of hours the engine has been running, so that's good to keep track of for service. We'll go over how to add oil here in a second. These motors, they are tested in the factory, but they do drain the fluids out of it before they ship it. Otherwise it could get a little messy. So we'll show you how to add the oil and then we will hook it up to a fuel tank before we get it into our test bin. All right, so I'm going to show you how to add oil to the motor because like I said, out of the box, they will not have oil in them. So first, this yellow cap here is your oil fill hole right here. Take that out, set it aside, make sure it doesn't get dirty. Then get yourself a nice clean funnel. Stick that in there like that. And then add 10 W40 motor oil into it. And just little by little, because you're going to check here in a second. And to check the oil, it'll be on this side here. Will be a yellow dipstick right there. And you can see where there's kind of grid marks. You want to be right there in the middle. So always wipe it off first. Stick it back in there all the way. And pull it out and check it. The next thing you want to do is attach your fuel tank to your motor, and you do that using the fuel line here that's included in your box. One thing to note is the fuel only goes one way, and on the pump there is an arrow there telling you which way to go. So start at the tank, and it's super easy. It's just two little pins here, and you'll push it in until you hear it snap, like that. And it's the same thing on the other end here. Push it in until you hear it snap. Like that. And then you need to prime the motor. So you will squeeze this pump right here a couple times. And on a fresh start, it might not go right away to where you need to squeeze it until it gets firm, and then you'll actually hear the fuel going through it. So once you hear the fuel going through, you're ready to start.
All right, so Adam just showed us how to connect our engine to the gas tank. We're all set with that. And now we're gonna go ahead and move the 9.9 onto our inflatable. Now this is a Heidi 330. It's just a little over 10 feet, rated up to 15 horse, 4 passengers. And so we are now going to take the motor and transfer it here, get it all mounted up and show you how to make sure it's secured. And then we're gonna get out and take it for a test spin. So here we go. We're going to make sure and get this over the transom, and we're just going to go ahead and tighten these, making sure that the motor is as centered as we can get it. Give it a nice good tight tug on these. We're all set. One neat thing about the 330 and the other line of Heidi inflatables is that they have a piece right here where your gas tank can strap right in. So we're going to stop and fuel up, and then our gas tank will secure right underneath the seat for the driver. So that's a convenient feature. All right, next stop, we'll see you out at the water. All right, we're here fueling up on our way to the water, and one thing we wanted to make a quick note of is what type of gas and what type of gas container to use with your new outboard. Number one, any outboard that comes from Heidi that has an external hookup will include a gas tank. These are already approved, they're safe, they're vented, and they're ready to go and ready to hook up. They're compatible with the motor and with the pump and the fuel line that comes with it. Secondly, the type of gas that you need. We're going to be running with regular 87 octane, so there's no need to buy high octane, there's no additives, there's no reason to spend more than just whatever you're paying at the pump. So those two things will get you the right fuel in the right container to get you out on the water safely. All right, we're here. We made it to Eagle Creek Reservoir in Indianapolis, Indiana. We're getting ready to take out our 9.9 horsepower motor with our Heidi 330 10-foot inflatable boat. We're going to talk through the steps of getting this started for the first time. And the first thing you should always be thinking about is safety. In Indiana, and I believe most other states, you're required to have life jackets, and we're big proponents of encouraging people to actually wear them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start just by putting my life jacket on. All right, so we've got our life jacket on. That means if we fall in, we float and we'll be safe. That's good, especially if you have kids on the boat or people who are not confident with their swimming abilities. From there, we're going to go ahead and talk about the different parts of the motor and the gas tank and what gets us going. So before we got in the water and got everything set up, Adam went ahead and connected our fuel line, just like in the earlier video. So we have one end of the fuel line going into the tank. We're paying attention to the arrow on the bulb telling us which direction the fuel will flow into the motor. Those things are all pre-hooked up for us here. The first thing I'm going to point out when we go to start the motor is that it should always be in neutral when we start the motor. A, it's very, very hard to start it if it's in gear, and B, it's also unsafe because if we do start it, it takes off from under us. So take a look real closely at the motor. We're going to go ahead, and this is our gear shift. So each of these motors, the 9.9s and up, and the 6s, and some of the smaller ones don't have reverse, but this 9.9 does have forward, neutral, and reverse. You can feel it. If I pull this all the way towards me, that's in the forward position. Push it back, it'll click, that's neutral. Push it back once more, that's reverse. So it's real easy to tell which gear you're in if you go through those. And giving this a dry run so you're comfortable with where forward, reverse, and neutral are is a wise idea. So I recommend going all the way into forward and then pushing it back a click. Now we know it's in neutral, so it's safe to start. The next thing we're going to take a look at is our throttle control. It's here on our arm. This is used for steering as well as throttle control, so our speed. These are adjustable from a basic idle speed on the far left, and as you rotate it, you'll see that the bars get bigger and you get up to full speed 100%, giving the full amount of gas to the engine as you can. If you notice closely, there is a starting location. It is a little red triangle, and you're going to want to line up that triangle with the dot on the arm. This is going to help you have the perfect amount of gas going in here to help this thing idle. Once you have your throttle lined up, the engines do require a nice burst of gas to get going right away, and that's what our choke is for. So in this current position, the choke is in. This is where it'll be when we're running, when we're operating, when the motor's warmed up. But for that initial start, we do want to pull it out. And just a slight tug will help that go out. Once we're done and everything's running and good, we can push it back in. It'll operate and idle at a normal speed. But for our first round of starting, we're going to go ahead and pull that out. The final thing to consider before we jump in and go ahead and give the pull cord a rip is this little key. It's kind of a safety clip. It comes in your package when you open up your box. This is required to go underneath our little red stopper in order for this engine to run. And most of the time, speaking of safety, this will go around our wrist like that. So when we're operating the boat, if there was an accident, a big wave, we stood up too quick, we fell out, then this will actually become disconnected. It'll stay with us. That'll power down the motor so the motor doesn't take off or anything like that with you out of the boat. So this is the final component, is we're going to take this key and we're going to slide it into the back of this rubber stopper, and that's going to allow the engine to operate and function and run properly. Okay, one last thing before we give the pull cord a shot. I'm going to make sure that the fuel line is primed. Just going to pick it up and give the bulb a couple of squeezes. And once it starts to firm up, we know that we're all set and ready to go ahead and give it a start. All right, so everything's ready to go. We're going to go ahead and go through our final steps. I've got my key in. I've got my throttle aligned properly. The motor is in neutral. Our choke is out. And now we're going to give this a yank. You're going to want to pull it out gently until it snags. And once that happens, then you're just going to give it a good rip. Hey, first time. Since I got it started, I'm going to go ahead and push the choke in. And then using the throttle control here, we're still in neutral, so it's not pushing or pulling us. I'm going to give it a little extra gas to help it warm up. And just let it idle for a little bit to help it warm up. All right, so now the engine's started, everything's going good, it's idling just fine. So now comes the good part, which is unhooking the boat from the dock, taking off with our new Hidea boat and motor. So here we go.